For me, the soul is, if I had to define it, it's the essence of who we are. It's the part of us that transcends the physical body. It's the part that travels through lifetimes, goes in and out of incarnations, carries the learnings. It's the evolution of our soul that we're coming in and out of incarnations to experience and grow and change and expand.
My understanding is that our soul energy is the unbridled, unlimited, most purest essence of who we are. And if you could imagine an umbrella, and there are different spokes that come down on the umbrella, I equate those to like different lifetimes that we've had, but the top spoke, the top hub at the top of the umbrella that holds it all together, that to me is like the energy of our soul.
The soul to me, and it sounds repetitive, is our essence. Essence that signed the contract, come here. It's what all of us are working to help people get back to instead of this thing here. Because this thing here, it's temporary. But the soul knows its way home.
I think of it as essence, as timeless. I think that because we live in this plane, we can only understand things in this plane. But I think that I am both an entity unto myself and part of the all of everything, even though that makes no sense in this realm. I don't care if it makes sense or not. I just feel like that's just the truth of it.
It's your essence. It's the purity of the untouched, your true self. Some people say your authenticity. It's your limitless energy that keeps creating and creating and creating over and over again, as opposed to the ego or the fragmentations that are the contractions of the soul. They're contracting the soul. They're trapping the soul.
Where do we go? Well, we're always merged, but being in a human body gives us this layer that fools us into thinking that we're separate. And so, in my opinion, our journey, the journey home, is the realization. And this is what self-realization is, and ultimately what people call enlightenment.
Hey everyone, it's Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. A quick message before we dive into today's discussion. You may have been watching our videos, but have not had a chance to hit that subscribe button. So if you have gained value from our conversations, from our channel, it would be so appreciated for us if you would hit that subscribe button below right now and even give us a like. What that means is not only does it allow us to grow our subscriber base, but it also allows us to bring in even more guests for you to listen to. And you will be one of the first ones to be notified. So please hit that subscribe button and let's get started on today's wonderful panel discussion. Welcome to our wonderful panel discussion, Becoming Whole, Reclaiming the Fragmented Soul, a topic that I am so excited to be listening to. Of course, my name is Sophia from Sacred You, and we have the absolute honor of presenting these panel discussions. And we are blessed that the beautiful JENNYLEE Taylor is back again to facilitate another one of these panels. And JENNYLEE, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce the panel. Love to know why you are bringing this topic to Sacred You and to the world, and then to introduce all the other wonderful speakers. I will be back at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Sophia. What a lovely introduction. I am JENNYLEE Taylor. I'm a breathwork practitioner and trainer on the east coast of Australia. It's actually early morning here, so good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to everyone who's watching and attending. I'm so blessed to be surrounded by some beautiful women who are going to speak to us on this topic of becoming whole, of reclaiming the fragmented soul. It's actually it's a big topic for me. It's very much part of my own personal journey through the lens of the breath. And It's also comes up time and time again when I work with people, so much so that I have written a book which is in the editing stages on this topic. So I'm very excited, and I'm really interested as well to hear the perspectives of these other women who clearly are just as excited as me about this topic. And so I'm going to go around and ask everyone to introduce themselves to start with, and also include through which lens that you see the fragmented soul or soul retrieval come in through your work. Sandy, would you like to start?
Sure, thank you. I'm Sandy Alemian, and I'm from the US, the East Coast, from Massachusetts. And the lens through which I see the soul and work with the soul, I've been a spirit medium for 30 years. And it's been an honor and a privilege to be tuned into that spiritual realm for helping to explain concepts in like a down-to-earth kind of way that demystify a lot of what is confusing for so many people. I'm also a certified hypnotherapist. I've written 3 books, and I do soul work with people, helping them find a connection to their own soul, their most precious God self.
Beautiful, thank you. And I'm just going to go round as you are on my screen. Barb, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Barb Nangle. I am a boundaries coach, and I am also on the East Coast of the US in Connecticut, right just south of where Sandy is. And I come from the world of 12-step recovery, which is where I learned how to build healthy boundaries. I was a lifelong agnostic until I read the book Conversations with God when I turned about 37. And then I was 52 when I got into 12-step recovery. And even though I identified it as a rather spiritual person by then, my spirituality just magnified and exploded. And I don't tend to really talk or think about the soul in my work. I think more, I would call it beingness. But if I were to say, what do I think the soul is? I think it's like the essence of us that is still connected to source and that is permanently with us on this plane and everywhere else. And I actually have a podcast called Fragmented to Whole: Life Lessons from 12-Step Recovery, which is what attracted me to this particular panel, because I have a lot to say about becoming whole and becoming fragmented.
Beautiful, thank you. Yes, I noticed that when I was reading up on you. That's great. Tywanah, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, everyone. I am Tywanah EVETTE. I am also known as Thunderbird Rising, which is my Native American name. I am a high priestess, a shaman, and a spiritual guide. And soul retrieval, very important in my work. I go into the ethers and aid my clients in retrieving the parts of them that have been missing. It's very important. I do inner child work, I do shadow work, and then I also do my shamanic magic, as I call it, where I aid them in that. I too am a medium. I have been my whole life since my mother found out when I was 2 that I could see people who were no longer here because my pop-up came to me when he passed and I was toddling around the house. So yes, retrieving the soul, very important, because we leave pieces of ourselves when traumatic things happen in different spaces of time and space is the best way I can put it. And in order to become whole, you have to go back and retrieve those pieces of you that you've lost. And as a shaman, I take people on those journeys. So
Beautiful, thank you.
thank you.
Ambika, have I said that properly? Yeah, would you like to come on?
Sure. My name is Ambika Devi.
Ambika.
I'm also on the east coast of the US, maybe the furthest south, I don't know. I'm on the Treasure Coast of Florida. And my work and philosophy comes from Advaita Vedanta. So this is an ancient yogic philosophy. in which we see the soul as one. There's only one. The fragmentation or the perception of fragmentation, therefore, is amnesia, not remembering. Have I been involved in things like hypnotherapy and retrieval and the idea of fragmentation? Absolutely. But I have to say that what I perceive at this point is really that there is one soul, and I can speak on the anatomy of it later if you like.
Great, thank you. We're going to get lots of great perspectives here. Thanks. Anick, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello, JENNYLEE. Nice to see you again. Who I am all of it. I'm Anick Patry. I am from Montreal, Quebec, Canada originally, but I've moved to, I took a quantum leap to Australia, a jump of a kangaroo. And I've been here in Australia by the sea. That was my dream. That was one of my dreams anyway. I made it come true. Which is big. I've been here for about 24 years now, I think. So my mission, my purpose, my sole purpose is to help women, conscious women, spiritual women, to embody their highest lucrative joy and to own their creative power, so that they can be fully expressed and be in full service to their community with ease and grace. And so I created a modality called voice tapping, because voice is one of my main instruments for creating more space within, I'd say, liberating the human and really tapping into the soul's energy, which is infinite. There you go. Ta-da!
Thank you, Anick. And whereabouts in Australia are you?
I am in Sydney, Australia, New South Wales.
Great. We're about 2 hours from each other. Fantastic. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for that. I'm very excited. And I was having a chat with Sandy as we were coming in before everyone else got here. And the first question I wanted to ask the group is, let's define the soul, if we can put a definition around it. And we're actually talking about how English language in particular can be so limiting when we're talking about something so sacred as someone's essence. I'll just start by, through the lens of breath work, we work with a lot of energy. For me, the soul is, if I had to define it, it's the essence of who we are. It's the part of us that transcends the physical body. It's the part that travels through lifetimes, goes in and out of incarnations, carries the learnings. It's the evolution of our soul that we're coming in and out of incarnations to experience and grow and change and expand. I guess that's how I could sum it up. But Sandy, would you like to go into your perspective on what the soul actually is, just so we can put a context around it for the listeners? Yeah.
What I'm already sensing with this group, and I love it, is that we may see it similarly and we might see it a little bit differently. If we were all looking at an elephant from different sides and perspectives, we would describe it differently. And I think that's really cool. I'm excited to hear everybody's perspective. Mine is very similar to yours, JENNYLEE, is that my understanding is that our soul energy is the unbridled, unlimited, most purest, makes me want to cry, purest essence of who we are. It is, to me, it is the part of us that is one with God or source. The way that I've described it to my clients, because I also do past life regression with my clients, and if you could imagine an umbrella and there are different spokes that come down on the umbrella, I equate those to like different lifetimes that we've had, but the top spoke, the top hub at the top of the umbrella that holds it all together, that to me is like the energy of our soul. And so we come down and we have a lifetime and we get bruised and we learn and we grow, and then we go back into the energy of our soul. We're like, whew, that was a tough one. And then we go and have another experience. But to me, we always come back home to the energy of our soul. That to me is our true home, is our soul essence.
Beautiful. I love that analogy of the umbrella. Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandy. Tywanah, would you like to just describe the soul from your perspective?
Absolutely. Thank you. And I forgot to mention, I just moved to South Florida 10 days ago. Everybody else mentioned where they are and I forgot. Anyway, the soul to me, and it sounds repetitive, is our essence. It's the essence that signed the contract, come here. It's what all of us are working to help people get back to instead of this thing here, because this thing here, it's temporary. But the soul knows its way home. The soul knows the path. We just have to be open to it. So it's like a container. If you think of a container, it holds, and you pour water in it, it holds that water, and it will hold that water forever as long as you leave it there. It doesn't matter time, space, whatever. That container is going to hold that water. Well, your soul is the water. It's there. It's the essence. It's life. It's your life force. It carries your mission. It carries your purpose. It carries your lessons. What you came here to piggyback off Sally, you know, what you came here to learn, what you came here to do, and how you do it. The soul knows all. And yes, it is connected to source, the divine, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, spirit. And so it receives those messages from spirit. Okay, it's time to change. It's time to do this. It's time to do that. And that's where we get major life changes and things from. It's coming from your soul longing to be at one with everything else. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, beautiful. And it is fluid like water is. So you described the water analogy. Yeah. And it can be frozen and it can be out in the ethers like gaseous, and the states of water. Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Barb, what's your take on the soul?
Yeah, it's hard to find language different than what I've already heard. I think of it as essence, as timeless. I think somebody said it's non-physical. And I would say not only does it transcend the physical, it also transcends time and space. And I think of this being right here, Barb Nangle, is an aspect of my soul. I don't know how else to say that. And also, I think that because we live in this plane, we can only understand things in this plane. But I think that I am both an entity unto myself and part of the all of everything, even though that makes no sense in this realm. I don't care if it makes sense or not. I just feel like that's just the truth of it. So that's how I see it.
Yes. And we might all be saying similar things, but we're giving slightly different language to it. So people are going to understand it in a different way. So thank you. And it's great to hear that we may all be on the same page as well. Anick, would you like to give us your take on what you feel the soul is?
Yeah, it's a big question. What is the soul? Yeah, and how to give some sort of tools to the soul. I guess it's beautiful what all the women here have shared. I resonate with all of your descriptions. I'd say it's your essence. It's the purity of the untouched, the virgin touched for the very first time, like Madonna's song. It's this diamond, the purity of your essence, your true self. Some people say your authenticity, it's your limitless energy that keeps creating and creating over and over again, as opposed to the ego or the fragmentations that are the contractions of the soul. They're contracting the soul, they're trapping the soul in a cage. And the soul just knocks at the door and just wants to be completely free. That's why we have a human life, to liberate your soul entirely. So some of us will reach, with a marathon, will reach the final. Some of us will get the gold medal. Some of us will get the silver, the bronze. Some of us we won't reach the final line and we'll come back again to have a different experience. And basically the soul is pure love, pure light, pure energy, it's pure. It's really pure. That's what's coming through, Anick. You're right now.
Beautiful. And I can feel how we're also grasping for the right words to describe something that's really intangible in the physical world. But we're going to talk a little bit how that shows up. But Ambika, would you like to?
Is it intangible or is it tangible?
Aha, good.
We human beings are made primarily, elementally, measured by science, by hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen. But so is everything in the galaxy. And as an astrologer, highly trained in astronomy and astrophysics also, and theoretical physics, I can go way beyond all of this. We know, or we think we know by measurement, that the soul has a weight, right? We've heard 15 grams. So what's that stuff? The way I like to describe it to a seeker is, yes, it's like an egg. And we've heard of an egg-shaped orbic protective part of us that's primarily white light, we hope, maybe golden light. And we can see facets on it like a cut gem, but then things are holographic. We can back out all the way and realize that, as I said, from Advaita Vedanta and yogic philosophy, everything is Atma, is what religions will call God. It's this essence that is all-encompassing, all-enveloping. And what I mentioned earlier is that fragment idea is amnesia of thinking I'm not connected. I'm disconnected. And this is where the personality, yes, the ego, comes in to play. But if we want to anatomically look at it, it's an egg orb. It has facets like a three-dimensional yet multi-dimensional egg. And each of those facets has 5 sides. Each has a representation. We can divide the egg into 3 parts, 3 stages. Remember, this is multi-dimensional, so we have to be able to have overlays. And if we're thinking in our 2 or 3-dimensional world, I'll do my best to explain it so you can have a visual, those of you who are visually leaning towards understanding. And so we can see a lower, a middle, and an upper. But then we can also see whatever we see as the divine, the omnipresence, the omnipotent, like this too. So don't separate yourself as I describe this. Each of these facets are not flat. They're leaning up like a pyramid. So we have a 4-sided pyramid with the bottom 5 sides. And then on one of the facets, we have an active energy that's always moving, and we can call it acta. And then on another, we have a nomen, which is a name. And that name is your name for the divine. This is how we got from one language on this planet and then the Tower of Babel into all these languages where we don't understand each other anymore. And then we have also prima, which is a primary piece, we can think of it. It's a piece of the universe that's in us. Any of these can be chipped. Think of how you can chip a crystal. And then we have a spiritual name. Some of us are led to it. Some of us are given that name. Sometimes a great one, a teacher, a seer, a psychic, a swami, a guru can give you a name, or a parent, right? You can get it that way, or a spiritual leader. And then we have a word of power. So all of this makes up one of those little facets. And then I can give you a numeric value. There's 617 of these in the egg. And this is what makes the weight that leaves that we can measure. Where do we go? We're always merged, but being in a human body gives us this layer that fools us into thinking that we're separate. And in my opinion, our journey, the journey home, is the realization. And this is what self-realization is, and ultimately what people call enlightenment. You know, what is enlightenment? Light is when you walk into a dark space and flip the light on. because then you can see what's going on or what you just walked over that kind of freaked you out, right?
It's
A piece of
fascinating.
rope on the floor. And then, so knowledge is the light. The more knowledge we take in, the less ignorant, the less enlightened we are
Yeah.
to
I
retrieve
love,
whatever we perceive as a fragmentation or
yeah.
something lost. And this can come from all these different modalities that these beautiful people are sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ambika. It's so refreshing to have a certainly new perspective for me. Thank you for that. And the 15 grams, and it's just got my mind going, racing in the background, having these fresh ideas come in as well. There was something that you said, I think it was Anick actually, was about trapping the soul. My take on that was that in this lifetime, the soul comes in as described by all of us in some form, and just to validate everyone's thoughts, because I don't know that, just personally, I don't know that any one of us actually knows what the truth is about any of this. But the trapping of the soul, so the soul comes in, has this experience in this lifetime, and life happens. We have people, we have relationships, people die, we go to work, all those things. And it seems that life is like this invitation that wants to trap our soul. That's what I picked up from Anick. And in the trapping of the soul, this is where the soul, we either get amnesia, as Ambika puts it, or we have a part of our soul that fragments off as others work with that energy of that, just saying that everyone's right. What is it that shows up? How does it show up? When you look at somebody or you work with someone, how's it actually showing up in their daily life that they may have had a soul fragmentation? Either they've forgotten who they are, or they've had actually a part of them go missing in terms of how they see themselves. Who would like to, just before we go with that, welcome Maxine. Thank you for coming on and joining us. Maxine's come in as an audience member. Can you just, if you have any questions along the way, would you just put your hand up and I'll give you space to ask them when you feel like, or you can just sit and listen. Thank you. Yeah. Does anyone want to chime in to start on that? How do the sign, okay, Barb.
Yeah, I think it shows up in people living out of alignment with what matters to them. So, like in my work, I work with a lot of people who are like people pleasing, rescuers, fixers, saviors. They go way overboard because they perceive themselves as only getting value by what they give to other people. And they're often riddled with anxiety and guilt and shame. They have a lot of stress in their lives. They don't sleep well. They have messed up relationships, especially their relationship with themselves. So I would say I could go on, but that gives a good introduction to this is not someone who is soul aligned.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And Tywanah? Yes, thank you. Unmute yourself. Yeah.
Sorry, new mouse. It also shows up in how they handle their trauma.
Mm.
Do you hold on to it like it's your most prized possession and use it as a means to elicit sympathy and empathy from others? Or do you face what's in front of you and plow through it, annihilate it, learn the soul lesson, and keep moving? That's what I have found in my work. It shows up in how people handle not only trauma, but disappointments, disagreements, things that aren't going their way, life changes, differences of opinion, things like that. It blends with emotional intelligence, if you would. Once you have retrieved all those parts of your soul that you may have lost during traumatic injury, home trauma, whatever it is, you don't look at life the same. You don't look at things the same. You don't look at people the same. You can have a discussion with someone and say, I can see what you're saying, but I feel different, but we're going to agree to disagree. You want to go get lunch? Versus grr. It's like that tension and that anger. So in my work, it really shows up in how they handle life. Do you move through life with flow and ease? Again, there's that water. Or do you fight and try to control everything? that's how it shows up in my clients. And that's how I can tell, no, we've got to go back to this age, because this is where a part of your soul skipped out. And this is your little self that's wanting to fight.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just occurred to me that this whole concept of soul fragmentation is something's gone missing, whether you've forgotten about it or something's actually gone missing. There's this energy of unconsciously always wanting to fill up and never be satisfied. That's the people pleasing, Barb, I think, is the, this, because when you're centered as a soul, everything comes from within, and you're whole and you feel whole and complete. It often comes up in language for me as well. I just don't feel myself. I just want to be whole again. I just want to be me, all those sorts of things. Yeah. Sandy, would you like to add?
Yeah. So when I'm connected, I'm always connected to my soul. I believe we're always connected to our soul, but we don't always feel it. We don't always know it. We don't always remember it. But when you're in that remembrance of being connected to your soul energy, there's a sense of belonging. And I have found with the clients that I've worked with, and I've lived it personally myself, I didn't feel like I fit in here. And a lot of the women that I work with, they're just trying to figure out where do I fit in? Where do I belong? And I help them find the stories, and it usually always goes back to childhood, and sometimes we'll go into past lives with it too. Like finding the core stories that little child created when something happened to them that was harmful or hurtful. From that little child's perspective, they start to believe something about themselves or about the world. And then they carry that story, they carry that belief. And that story, that belief is what creates the separation from the essence of the soul. And then when we have that going on, that's when the people pleasing, that's when the performing, that's when the perfecting, all of that behavior comes up because we have that belief system. I've also noticed, and it's again come up for me recently too, is that sense of how often do we try and find that love, that validation, that approval, that acceptance from out there? What is that thing? Who is that person that's going to make me feel whole? Trying to find it from the external world. And the work that I do on myself and with my clients, that's an inside job. Like we might find that relationship, and it might temporarily make us feel like, oh, this is home. But people die, people go away, relationships break up. It could be like any of the things that we reach for or grab for externally that we're trying to help us to feel that sense of belonging. And it's a deep belonging, in my experience, that can only be done when we come home here first and we take a look at that little child and like the little beliefs that they had and bring truth to it, because the truth will set us free every single time. And for me, the truth comes from the energy of our soul and the energy of source. That's for me where truth is.
Yeah, beautiful. And I love that it you can almost apply any sign or symptom, if you like, in life to potentially coming back to having a soul part or a soul fragment split off or chip off the whole, as Ambika talks about it, on the whole egg. Yeah, Anick.
It's beautiful to share so much wisdom in this way, so much potency and wisdom is beautiful. The fragmentation, of the soul, it happens in the conditioning and the programming and what it happens from as soon as you're born. You get a bit of a template there, and the way you're born, like the way you mother a pregnancy with you, like we feel the little, what's it called in English anyway, the little thing, the mini tiny little baby in the tummy already absorbs and feels what the mother's going through, and then the way you're born, and then they all imprinted in your nervous system, in your body, and so that's where the fragmentation start to happen. And then the way your primary carers, your mother and father, if you were lucky to have both of them, and the way they talk to you, the way they transmit to you their own fears, their own beliefs, their own traumas. They give and their own talents and gifts and joy and power. They give it all to you, and you're a little sponge, and you just absorb all these energies, and it's full on for a little being. We're very sensitive, and especially us psychic medium healers, we're super empath. We're very sensitive. So imagine when we were little, we just take everything in, and to protect ourselves. It's survival. That's where we fragment ourselves into all these kind of funky parts. It's been mentioned here, like people pleaser, prostitute, perfectionist, all these egoic characters. They come up for survival, to protect that little person. So that's how I see, personally, that's how I see fragmentation of the soul. And it can take a lifetime, and sometimes a few lifetimes, to completely embody the wholeness. But I guess it's a belief there. I'm just catching Anick saying that here. Actually, you can shift quicker, like you can go back to wholeness. Actually, yeah, you can go back to wholeness a lot faster by choosing in the moment, and by acting differently. That if you've been in a pattern of making the same choice over and over again and behaving in a certain way, that will give you a result that is no longer a result that gives you orgasms, that doesn't bring you joy, that doesn't bring you money, that doesn't bring you long-lasting relationship. It doesn't give you the result that your heart truly desires. Coming back to the choice, coming back to the action that you're making with this. Like we all chose to be in this container here today. That's a really wise choice.
Having that choice, there's a real awareness that
Yeah, correct, for sure. And sometimes when you're in that fragmentation or that trauma or that all over the place, and I know I've experienced it myself, it makes it really hard to make a choice, just to choose that you're deserving to feel good, that you're okay and you're safe to feel good. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's true. It's true. Thank you for bringing that to. But I'm also happy that I also cut myself, because as all spiritual leaders, sometimes we're like, yeah, it takes so long to transform, but it doesn't have to take that long.
I agree, and I feel like Ambika would follow on from that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Anick.
Absolutely. Thank you. Is it a fragmentation? I think this is us trying to put it in our three-dimensional world, like something chipping off and flying away. But what if, with the metaphor I gave you earlier of the facets, if they're lit up when they're functional, what if they just go dark? They don't break off, they just go dark. And remember what I said about darkness and light. Darkness is ignorance. Ignorance isn't negative. What that means is we don't have the knowledge, and knowledge is the light. A lot of people want to imagine the soul's path, dharma, and then karma. We have to understand the three types of karma. That's a whole different discussion. And what if, instead of thinking I landed here and all this stuff is happening to me, that's personality. That's ego is part of it, but that's mind. And mind isn't who we are. Mind is external. Mind is something that we receive information from. And then the things that hurt create a memory. It's our choice to keep rolling around and revisiting the memory like waves on the shore, churning up sand, or just floating back into the oneness of the ocean, of the divine essence. I know it's not so easy. All of us take hits. All of us suffer things. And I'm not discounting or disclosing those at all. But the more we learn, yes, to be in the present, to not go backwards, which, in my opinion, creates anxiety, or to keep projecting what if or when in the future, which, in my opinion, creates fear, it makes a lot more sense to be here. Okay, so we find ourselves with someone who needs our help, and there is a scattering. There are things that are in the dark, and the light isn't flipped on clearly, and the perceptions are off. There are many techniques to help with that, and that's as per the individual and what they can relate to.
Yeah.
But I think if we can at least begin with the idea of something didn't break off of me, what I'm doing is retrieving my light. I'm illuminating that part of me again so that it can be present, rather than imagining I lost something and it's trashed and I can't get it back.
I agree. And it also, I think the experience is so different for everyone. And what we haven't really talked about is the feeling. We're in this physical body, whether we're a soul going through lifetimes, and we're omnipresent and pure light and connected to essence, yet we've chosen to come into this physical body for a reason. And all the things that people have described about how it shows up for the people they work with, they're all manifestations of feeling what it's like to be a soul in this physical body. So and Sandy and I were talking, but the terminology is so interesting, because we, as humans, we love to label things. So we can put it in a box and we can apply our intellect to it and we can make sense of it. And whether we're talking about darkening or lightening the facets of the egg, or we're talking about a part of ourselves split off, or it's what actually, for me, it feels like it's what actually resonates with the person that's sitting there feeling like they're not connected to their soul energy. So I love that, because there's 6 billion people on this planet and we're not all going to be thinking the same, are we? and I know I've worked with shamanic people as well, so I know that soul retrieval is a strong part of the work, a big part of the work. And Sandra Ingerman actually talks about the essence of soul retrieval is that, and someone else talked about safety as well, is that when the soul isn't feeling safe in this physical body, it's going to go somewhere and go, I'm out of here. This isn't in alignment with my true essence. Yes, and because there are many things that can make us feel disconnected. Yeah, thank you. That concept of Sandra Ingerman's work, who's a shaman who's written a lot of books on soul retrieval, she talks about there's a part of us that's not safe in the soul aspect and splits off, or whatever term you want to call it, turns the light down so as not to feel the full brunt of the pain that the physical body is feeling. Does anyone want to talk to that as in terms of how people might relate to that feeling, or that getting an understanding of what it is? Yeah, Tywanah.
Yes. When in my work, in my experience, and in my opinion, when we don't feel safe, when our inner child does not feel safe, and when our inner child cannot move to the front, it's like being in line. When our inner child can't move to the front and take the hit, then the soul exits. Something that I also want to bring up, people with epilepsy. I have epilepsy. Our souls actually leave our bodies when those episodes are happening. And there is a part of us that when we don't feel safe says, this is not a safe body. I need to move to the side for now. It's not to say it's gone forever, but it's like, this is just too much. And this body cannot handle this. This is not what I came here for. I cannot handle this. I'm a step to the side until you begin your healing journey. And once you begin your healing journey, you can then say, okay, wait a minute. When I was 6, this happened. So 6-year-old Tywanah is upset about this. You acknowledge 6-year-old Tywanah, and then you can go and retrieve that healthy part that is ready to come home to itself. It's complicated, but it's not.
Yeah.
Again, in my work, in my opinion, in my training, that's just what I have found. That when things get too big, I had to retrieve probably 55% of my soul, because I've been through such deep trauma that I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to recognize me. Who was I? Why am I here? What's going on? And it wasn't until I went inward that I was able to start saying, oh, okay, this is where I lost that. It's like losing your gloves on the train. Oh, I was on the E train. Let me go get my gloves. So like I said, it's simple but complicated in in the shamanic realm and in the psychic and mediumship realm. And I'm sure Sandy understands what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Tywanah. And it's interesting you say that you felt like 55% of you had to be reclaimed for you to feel whole and complete again. I've heard that in my work that sometimes we do the soul retrieval process and people say, wow, that was like a big chunk of myself, up to 90%, which is staggering when you think that whether it's, and I don't question anybody's experience because I've had the same experience myself, whether you're talking about the feeling of having a soul part split off or whether it's actually just amnesia. 90% of their 90% of who they think they are is not, they're not connected to in some way through loss of memory or through loss of a fragmented soul part. So that is astounding because it means that everybody who's walking around between having 10% of their whole soul self or 100% of their whole soul self is making every life decision from a place that's not feeling whole and complete in this world. I remember when I first got into this work and started writing about it, I actually went for a walk and looked out. I live on top of a hill which looks over at my city. And I just all of a sudden had this vision of all these soul parts coming back in to people all over the city. And I actually felt the energy of city lift. Barb, it'd be interesting to hear from your perspective in working with people. What are some of the causes what's the root cause? We've talked about trauma and not feeling safe, but there's lots of other things that people, that event or that moment in time when a soul splits off or we forget who we are. What are some examples that you can come up with?
Yeah, I think trauma is a root cause of much of the damage on this planet. We have been hacking and pillaging and burning as long as we can remember and beyond that here. And so that, of course, is going to result in trauma and it lives in our tissues and all that sort of thing. And then we develop patterns of behavior to deal with the trauma. So in my world, like people pleasing is one really common one. And when we're people pleasers, we're inauthentic. And what I realized when I got into recovery, my initial reason for getting into recovery was codependence, is that I could see that it was almost like my previous self was walking around as a bunch of fragmented pieces floating around in space that had spaces between them, which meant other people's shit could leak into my territory. And the process of my recovery, especially building healthy boundaries, was one of integrating all of those fragments into one coherent whole and getting rid of the inauthentic fragments. So now I can be rocked by things that happen to me, but I can't be shattered by them the way that I used to because I'm whole. And whole is another word for integrity. And so I'll just give a couple examples from my own personal experience of how I believe I became fragmented. And this is primarily once I started to have conscious, what I believed were choices, not the root cause of trauma. But I put up all these different facades because I wanted people's approval. I didn't know that I wanted that. So I acted like I liked things that I didn't. And I acted that I was like I was a fan of things that I wasn't. And that's inauthentic. So I had all these facades up. So of course I became fragmented. And then I also was dishonest. I actually thought I was a very honest person. And when I got in recovery, I was like, oh my God, I've lied about cigarettes, drugs, alcohol, relationships. But mainly I lied in the people-pleasing department and acted like things were okay when they were not. People would be like, how are you? I'm dying inside. I'd be like, I'm fine. I would volunteer for things that I didn't want to do, and then I would be resentful because nobody was meeting my needs and all that. And so part of the way that I became whole was to start being honest with myself first and then other people, which meant, of course, those facades went away because I'm no longer pretending I don't like things. And so I see my work as helping people get back into integrity with themselves. And I use a lot of physical metaphors about like what I've been talking about are physical metaphors of physical fragments. But I have to say, Ambika, I love the idea that it's perhaps not fragmentation, but things going dark. That is going to take me some time to integrate that metaphor, but that is amazing. And I really love that. But like pulling all of those pieces together, and it's not to me, I don't feel like I'm a bunch of taped pieces together that could easily fall apart. I feel like they really have integrated. And the way that I teach clients is I start with your top 5 values, because those, to me, that comes from your soul. You value those things for a reason. So if you use those as your guideposts, as your guardrails for when and where to make decisions in your life, it's going to bring you back into integrity with yourself. So that to me is that's like the shortest version I can say of my understanding of how we become fragmented and then what we do about it. And especially my own personal experience.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. It's really potent. And you mentioned all the things actually, addictions, people pleasing, drugs, alcohol, all that, they're all signs and symptoms that something's not working. Yeah, yeah. And you also mentioned about you felt like you'd fragmented apart and there was space that other people could get in. I know through my work there's also a concept of not only going out to retrieve a part of your own soul, but actually giving back parts of other people's soul that you may have taken on during the process. Does anyone want to speak to that? Yeah.
Absolutely. Taking anything, any type of theft is going to create that sensation. So it could be energy, it could be thought, it could be an action. I completely agree with those of you who have brought up the inner child. The book, my 7th, that I'm getting into production on right now, is about emotions. And I think we do need to go back to that childlike part that we all have, because we have to accept that we have all of the emotions. And when we can begin to accept and embrace that, martyring, absolutely, Barb. If we martyr ourselves, that is going to, in my model, turn the light off somewhere. And physical things that happen, anything from a dental experience to something even bigger and traumatic. So these occur. We're humans, we're having a human experience, but then we can absolutely bring ourselves back to feeling a wholeness. And everybody's going to have a different flavor that works for them. Some are going to want to, just look at it this way. Some of us really like smaller groups or alone time, and other people really need to be in big crowds. Right there, there's a division in taste and flavor. So yes, we must identify what helps us feel grounded and whole again. And we have to understand too, I focus on teaching people to observe the mind and the thoughts and become non-reactive to them with different techniques and methods, as well as analyzing their astrological charts to give them insight. However, what we need to understand is that in any given moment of time, somebody could change flavors and need different techniques for whatever it is that makes them feel that something got turned off or is out of their grasp. They're not feeling it as a part of them. So there is room for all of the different techniques, and we have to first identify what flavor works for me. It may not be what worked for your friend or relative, or what you saw somebody talking about on the internet. So you've got to meet you, and that's realizing, if we're going back to my bigger model, this is an illusion. It's not who I really am. So who am I? I am the oneness. I am everything. If we look at Neil Donald Walsh's work, if you're familiar, Conversations with God, but I like one of his newer books, which is Enlighten the Species, that really speaks on looking at everything and saying, there I go again. And when we can look at everything that way and send positive energy to anyone that crosses our path that needs some, I think that is really important. But do it without any anticipation of, because I'm doing a nice deed, something nice is happening to me. You have to be neutral. So what is going to give you, in my opinion, the greatest sense of wholeness is when you get away from the pairs of opposites of, I like that, I don't like that, I like it, I don't like it, and up, down, on, off, positive, negative, and you and everything around you are in neutrality, and you're witnessing. The true self is the witness, and that true self is the soul.
Yeah. And the other works that's good for that is the Course in Miracles takes you all through that process as well. But
I agree.
Yeah.
All of the spiritualities are making an effort to teach us through their language and their metaphors. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what I love about these panels, because they bring different perspectives, and people are going to resonate with something. Or I've got so much out of today as well, and I would love to have a longer conversation with some of you about different things, but not for today. But the intention for today was really to bring to people's conscious awareness that there's a concept that maybe putting some sort of framework or language or something around what people may be feeling day to day and can't put a finger on. Why is it that I'm feeling so that I have to be a people pleaser? Why is it that I'm feeling so less than whole, that I'm not myself? And this is one of the things you could be looking at, is the concept of soul fragmentation and becoming whole through that. And for me, I know the journey has been around, I couldn't even entertain some of the higher, bigger picture kind of concepts around being connected universally and we're all as one and all that. I couldn't even entertain it when I was feeling so depleted in myself. So I have to do this remedial action to get to a point where you can actually go, okay, that could be a thing. It could be a thing that we're all connected and we all come from the same source and where there's no separation and all that sort of stuff. So it just depends on where you are in your journey. I'd really like to thank all of you women for coming on today and sharing your experiences. Maxine, thank you for being with us and sitting with us. Did you want to say hi or something? Did you want to say something?
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm loving this. The energy here, and I'm basically just learning. I'm on a new journey and I'm absorbing as much as I can from a lot of different spaces and hearing what people have to say and see if it resonates with what I'm going through, or sometimes an idea comes up and it takes me to another place. And it's just such a beautiful space to be in. So I thank you all for your wisdom, your insight. I love hearing about your own journeys and then your journeys with your clients or the people that you're working with. So yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. So I think we're going to wrap up there. I know that everyone got a chance to say what perspective they were working from, and I think I'll just hand over to the lovely Sophia, if she's in the background there working away, to wrap up. Thank you.
Yes, JENNYLEE, I am in the background, not working away, listening to this incredible panel discussion. So I just want to honour you once again for bringing it to Sacred You in the World. And of course, all our beautiful panelists, all the women from all over the world. We have international speakers with us today. So thank you so much. For everyone who is listening, whether it's live or on the replay, do check out the links below and connect with these women who have given an hour of their time to share their wisdom on how we reclaim our fragmented soul. Love it. I will be rewatching it as well. And while you're there, check out Sacred You. It's sacredyou.love for everything else that's coming up. A beautiful JENNYLEE will be back next week, I do believe, with a wisdom circle on being you, living life authentically. Looking forward to that one that's coming very soon. And we've got so much more. So do check it out and come and join us while you're there. And we will see you all next time. Thank you.